Christy, aloha. Before we do roll call, is the pronunciation Likoan? Likuan?
It's Likoan.
Likuan.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Great.
Just so everybody is aware, we are live streaming on YouTube with a little bit of a delay.
Aloha, it's Kevin McLaughlin. I'm here.
Welcome, Kevin.
Okay, great. Ruth's gonna call to order at 4:03. But once we start rolling, we're gonna roll through this thing, hopefully without too much side conversation. So I just want to say it's great to see everybody. Appreciate you folks being engaged as we reconvene. And so let's have a good online meeting. Mahalo.
Okay, great. Well, I'm going to call the meeting. I'm showing 4:03, so I'm calling the meeting to order. As Bob has mentioned and Kamuela echoed, we are, yes, again, meeting each other in Zoom, thanks to COVID. Our membership will be here on the Zoom, and then the public has access through the YouTube. The YouTube will be recorded and it will be available for use later along with the minutes of the meetings. So I've been asked just to remind that when we're on Zoom, what our Aloha etiquette practices are, and basically one person speaks at a time with outside conversation. Keep your devices muted, please, to promote higher quality audio. Please raise your hand if you would like to say something and wait to be recognized by the chair. And prior to speaking, if you will say your name, state your name. Please speak slowly and clearly, and do your best to eliminate background noises, although I can do nothing about the house that's being constructed across the road from me. So we'll all do our best. So that being said, I'm going to go ahead and call the roll. Julia Alice. Present. Julie's present. Karen Anderson.
Present.
Present.
All right. You stated that Mark Gordon is not coming. Pete Hendricks.
Here.
Okay. Trish Lekoan. I still didn't do it right.
Christy Likoan here.
Lekoan. It's like
Thanks, Ruth.
long E. All right, dear. Kevin McLaughlin.
I am here.
You are here. Very good. Bill Sanborn.
Present.
President Accountant. And Ruth Smith, we're here. We certainly have a quorum. So I'm going to turn it over to Kamuela, who's going to take us on to our announcements. And the introduction of our newest member. Can I say one thing, Kamuela? I just want to, I know we've been so disjointed, but I just want to honor the work that Diane did in leading our action committee for years and the service that she gave. And we don't really do anything as formally as we used to, but I don't want that not to be acknowledged in this first official meeting that we're having without her. Thank you.
Yes, thanks, Ruth, for acknowledging Diane. And definitely, we appreciate her work during her time here on the Action Committee. With that, coming to the additions to the agenda, I don't have per se a new item, but what I would like to ask the committee is if we can move the public comment to the bottom of the agenda. We had a late submission of an email. And so since it came in late, I'm proposing that we read the comments that came in over email after our last business item. If that's okay with the group. Keiko, do you think we need a motion for that? It's not a change to any items, but it's a change of order.
You could make a motion to take items out of order. I don't think it's absolutely necessary, but
Okay,
you could, yeah.
Can I ask a question, Kohala?
yes.
Is this email related to any of the items of business that we have already? No?
No.
It's just, okay. Okay, I'll make a motion that we move that down towards the end. Do you hear a second?
Second.
I'll
for Steve.
second.
Okay, so the motion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Aye.
Terrific. Okay, thank you, Action Committee. Moving into the next item of announcements, even though we've met on another meeting, this is the first South Kohala CDP Action Committee dedicated to us during the reconvening. And so we want to acknowledge our newest member, Karen Anderson. We're super privileged to have her on our action committee with her past research and involvement in environment and other things, but I won't spill it all. I just want to give maybe about 3 minutes for Karen to introduce herself to all of us.
Well, hi, everyone. I'm Karen, and I'm taking over from Robbie Robertson. And that's how I found out about you, because Robbie and I are on the Puaco Community Association together. So I feel like I'm filling very big shoes. So I moved to Hawaii 10 years ago into Puaco with my husband and 2 children. And unbelievably, they are supposed to be off to college this year, but they're doing college from home. So how time has flown. As I said, I'm on the Puaco Community Association board. And one of the reasons I was asked to be on that board, and I think also on this, is because I used to be the state director of the Nature Conservancy in Washington State for many years. And I also did a lot of work with Native Americans and indigenous people around the world as part of my work with the Worldwide Nature Conservancy and up in the First Nations people in Canada. And what I really have a passion for is environmental justice and finding solutions to big problems that require big solutions, really, big, hairy, complex things, and finding ways to find agreement and common ground that all of the parties involved can really move forward. And in Puaco, specifically, we're really trying to find a solution to our wastewater in Puaco. And that's been ongoing since I joined the board 8 years ago, and it's really been moving along. And our big goal there is to protect the reef. And there's a lot of issues that go along with the reef. And people say, well, what about the overfishing? And what about this or what about that? But the real question was, what could we as community members do? And wastewater was our big one. So that's kind of what, I've been really helping coordinate down in Puaco. So I like getting involved in big, hairy projects that are complex and have lots of stakeholders. So it's great to be here. So I think I'm in the right group. I think I found my tribe here.
Great. Thank you, Karen, for that introduction. And again, just honored that you'd be a part of this WHOI, this group. Right now on the agenda, we were scheduled to have a short introduction from our new planning director, Zendo Kern, and he is logging on right now. So aloha, Director Kern, if you are on and if you are ready, you're right in time for your introduction.
Well, isn't that good timing? Can you hear me all right? Excellent. Yeah, I was trying to get connected in there, so here we are. Happy to be here. I'm not going to take a long time. I just wanted to, be here so you guys know that the new administration, the planning department, and myself as a director really support the CDP ACs. I think they're really a critical component, and I'm excited about what we're about to do with really working towards empowering the action committees to the fullest extent that we can. So the ACs can be, working their best in our communities. I think there's a lot of good intention, a lot of good heart, and a lot of great folks putting their time into this. So we really want to make sure that we're honoring it. The new administration's honoring it. Obviously, our staff is great to work with. They're the true champions. We're just here to continue supporting. And as AC members, if you guys have questions, ideas, comments, please feel free to share that with myself, with Kamu, obviously, but I'm really open to hearing things. And further, as something that we're trying to really work on from a county under Mayor Roth is really working to have our island thrive and our people succeed. And I'm working really hard on changing some things up within the department and improving the just the general process, system, and flow, and some improvements to the experience. And so as things are going along, and if you're having any feedback or have comments regarding the department, I would love to hear those too, so we can then, make adjustments and continue to move in the best direction we possibly can. Really grateful coming on to have such an amazing staff to work with. So just so lucky in that regard that great folks. And so a lot of my time is being spent on kind of the process, system, and flow. So again, wanting to work with, be working with Kamu, be working with April to do our best to empower you folks as the AC. And I'm excited about the direction to really have the community empowerment component be really at the forefront of what we're working on. So I hope all you are really excited as well. Kamu, was there anything in particular that you'd like me to get into or address at the moment?
No, I think that's an appropriate introduction for yourself. I will just say that on behalf of Zendo, our new director, he's made it clear to the department that he's always open for conversation from staff, but I do believe that part of his mission is to have the department be a better listening ear overall. So I think, Zendo, if AC members, of course, this is not the best venue to have a back and forth discussion, but knowing you, I think that you're open to emails.
Oh, yes.
If people have questions, you've made it clear you want to hear people's voice and respond. So I just wanted to put that out on your behalf.
Yeah, appreciate that. So yeah, emails, our emails are great. Calls are great. Positive comments are always a welcome. But beyond that, feedback is really important to me. And I've told the entire staff there, I want the candid feedback from how I'm operating, adjustments that we're making. So as Kamu can attest, I'm really open to that, and never hold anybody against that or penalize anybody for giving that type of feedback. I find it really important to be able to have an open discussion, open dialogue, and candor is really critical on moving our county forward. And with everyone's hearts and mind in the right place, same place of just, we all want our beautiful island to flourish. And we're maybe not always on the same page that way, but there's a way to have a positive communication and discourse around that. And that's one of the things, I mean, Kamal and I were just talking about that the other day. Like, you can have disagreeing points, and that if the conversation is done right, it creates this friction to actually potentially come up with something much better, or at least shows that you can have maybe not a meeting of the minds, but you can still have done with aloha and done with respect. And we're moving that in that way. It'll help build the strongest island that we possibly can. And that's really the goal and intention, which links back to general plans, community development plans, and the ACs, and just the whole entire Big Island Ohana in general.
Yeah, awesome. Terrific. Thanks, Director. And just to show them a little bit, please feel free to email us first. But anyway, thank you, Zendo. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Kamu, and thank you to all the AC members. Thank you for your time and the effort. It's really, really grateful and really, really appreciative. So I'll look forward to seeing y'all soon. Hopefully an in-person meeting one of these days in 2021. So until then, big mahalos, everybody. I'll let you guys get back to your business, and just appreciate everybody. So aloha.
Aloha.
Mahalo.
Okay. Well, terrific. We're going to move into straight into the business items. And the first order of business is nomination and election of your action committee officers. And this is going to be done all out in the open. And basically, I'll facilitate it. So beginning with chair. And let me see how I want to facilitate this. I can't see everyone's picture. So what I'm going to do is make a call for nominations, and then according to my screen, I'm going to call out people. So I can see Julia, Karen, Ruth, Tristy, and Bill. If you don't have a nomination, you can shake your head, or you can proceed to unmute and say a name you're going to nominate. And we'll go through everyone. For Pete and Kevin, I'll just call you out, and when I call your name, give you a few seconds to respond. And because I can't see your photos, you can say your nomination, or you can say I don't have a nomination, or you can just stay muted, and the awkward pause will let me know you don't have a nomination. So options. Anyway, so we're going to begin with nominating of the chair. And I'm just going to go down the line and start with Julia.
I give an up or down. Is this what you're asking?
You give a name if you want to nominate someone for the chair position.
I'll nominate Bill Sanborn.
Okay, thank you, Julia. Karen.
I don't have a nomination.
Okay. Ruth.
I'm good with the I'm good with the nominations as they stand.
Christie,
No nomination.
Bill,
Hey, I hate to tell you guys, but I have two other nonprofits that I run. And me to try to be chair in this situation is really going to be difficult. So don't hold back. You know, there's some other younger people here that would probably like to get there. I don't mind participating somehow, but I can't be the lead. Sorry about that. And I don't have anybody else to nominate because Pete told me to shut up. So I'm not going to say anything.
okay. Pete, give you a few seconds, Pete, if you can unmute to let us know if you have a nomination for chair.
Sorry, I thought I was unmuting. I don't have additional nominations. Nominations as they stand. Thank you.
Okay. So just to let you know, we only have one nomination, and that nomination was for Bill. And Bill is saying that he doesn't have capacity to chair right now. So Kevin, as it stands, there's no nomination. So
Hi, Kamala. I'll nominate Ruth Smith if she'll do it.
okay. So
Second from Pete, if you'll do it.
okay. So I guess before we call for, we may not even need to call for a vote, but so because there's the possibility of someone not being able to chair, so there's a nomination for Ruth and also a second for Ruth. Before we vote, Ruth, are you able to chair?
I am, as we say in church, I will with God's help.
Okay, so
I support you.
you accept the nomination.
Yeah.
Okay. So with that being said, I guess I'm just gonna vote anyway, call for a vote anyway. I'm just gonna go down the line again. So this is for in favor or not in favor. When I call your name, you can state your vote. So beginning from the top, Julia.
Not in favor.
Okay. Karen,
In favor.
Christie,
In favor.
Bill,
In favor.
Pete,
In favor.
Kevin.
In favor.
Okay, so as it stands, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 yeas and 1 nay. And therefore, Ruth, you are elected to chair for 2021. Congratulations. Okay, now I'm gonna go down the row, down the line and ask for nominations for vice chair. Before I go into it, just seeing how there wasn't much nominating going on, please feel free to nominate yourself. Okay. So I'm just gonna go down the line again. So asking for nominations for vice chair, beginning with Julia.
I'm willing to see if there's anybody that wants to step up to it. I'll pass right now. I'll see if somebody's got interest in it, or if they don't, no, I can't go for it.
Okay. You can't go for it and you don't have a nomination. Okay. Karen,
I don't have a nomination because I don't know anyone. So
okay. Fair enough. Thank you.
board, whoever wants to do it.
Ruth,
Well, I haven't talked to Christy about this, but I think she'd be a great vice chair. I mean, I think there's a lot of people that would be great vice chairs, but I don't know if you'd be willing to accept the nomination, Christy, but I think you'd be really good.
yeah, she can let us know. And she's next in line. Tristy, do you have a nomination?
I nominate Karen.
Okay. All right.
I don't
hate to-
decline my nomination, but
okay.
I would like to nominate Karen as well.
Funny now, I feel like I have to ask that question, but
Yeah.
okay, thank you, Tristy. Bill, nomination for vice chair.
I nominate Kevin.
Okay. Pete, nomination for vice chair.
No nomination.
Okay. Kevin,
I don't have any new nominations, no.
okay, great. So thank you all. As it stands, we have 3 nominations. And they are Tristy, Karen, and Kevin. And now I'm going to call for a vote going down the line.
Sorry,
And out of,
sorry.
No,
We
go
need a second for each of those nominations
oh,
before we can
Okay.
vote.
okay.
I'll second all the nominations. This is Kevin.
Is that good, Keiko?
It works.
Awesome.
And can I just clarify that they're all willing to take this position?
Yeah, nobody turned it down.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm gonna go down the line again, asking for your official vote. And you just, when you're called upon, you just pick one. So again, your choices are Tristy, Karen, or Kevin. And we'll begin the voting with Julia.
I will vote Tristy.
Karen,
I'll vote Tristy.
Ruth,
I'll vote for Tristy.
Tristy,
I'll vote for Karen.
Bill,
I'll vote for Kevin again.
Pete,
I vote for Kevin.
Kevin,
I guess I'll vote for Tristy.
Thanks.
okay.
That
So,
way we can move on.
okay. So Tristy has 4 votes. Karen has 1. Kevin has 2. Is that right, Rob?
Sorry, I have 4 for Tristy, 1 for Karen, and 1 for Kevin.
Two.
Two for Kevin.
2 for Kevin. Sorry, yes,
Correct.
Peters. I got Pete's now. Yeah.
Okay, I accept the nomination.
You're
Sorry,
muted.
you're on mute.
Oh, am I? I'm
No.
not on-
So
Do we have to close nominations first?
do we have to close this with a vote or that's enough? I think the vote seals it, right?
Yeah, the only question that I have is that normally, no, I think it's majority vote, right? It's not a quorum. Yeah, it's majority vote. I think we're good. Yep.
Okay. So with that, we're gonna conclude business item number 1, and congratulations to our new chair, Ruth, and our new vice chair, Tristy.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you folks for your service. Moving on, Ruth, you want me to just move into the next item, or you want to read that? Okay. So moving on to business item 2, update on Waimea trails and greenways. Long-range planner Natasha Soriano will provide an update on the status of the Kohala Waimea project. So Natasha, welcome, and thank you for the coming update.
Aloha, everybody. So Waimea Trails and Greenway, working on phase 1 design. Currently closing up our environmental permitting with FHWA. And we're kind of at the tail end and closing our 106, our section 106 historic preservation process. There was a little bit of a hiccup because of an inadvertent find, some bones that were found back in 2011. It somehow these bones were reinterred within our easement for the trail, and hasn't really been properly taken care of with a filed burial treatment plan with SHPT. So through our consultant, we're trying to take care of that, even though it wasn't quite related to the project. So once that's all settled, we should be able to close out our environmental portion. And then the rest of the year, we'll focus on design, which is probably maybe at a 60% design right now. As far as timetable for construction, the project isn't on the state transportation improvement plan yet. So we're preparing the project to be a shovel-ready project for when the state or the county needs to expend some federal funds. And that usually kind of comes at the end of the federal fiscal year. So, which I think it has a good chance of getting picked up. If there's any other questions about Waimea Trails, you guys let me know. You can either email me or you guys can ask now. I don't really have too much of an update on phase 2, other than that we are still in the process of solidifying our easements with Parker Ranch. Because we originally have an easement, but when earlier in 2020, we had our surveyors go out and stake the middle of the trail. And it was found that what easement we did have, which was really marked from the middle of Waikoloa River, which was a 30-foot easement. A lot of the area, a lot of places near the river is kind of steep. So we're kind of negotiating with Parker Ranch to kind of move the trail further into their land. There's still quite a bit of room for us. And in places we have a lot more room that we'd like to give back. So I think the next year is going to be for phase 2, we'll be solidifying the easements, and then we can see where that will land on design and if we'd be able to go to construction with anytime soon.
Terrific. Before I open it up for discussion or questions, back to Natasha. Natasha, there may be some people who don't know exactly where this alignment is, and if you can explain where after you explain where the location is, where phase one is phase one a segment of it, or is the whole thing just done in different phases? So
yeah, so apologies. So the Waimea Trail is, the big vision is a 4-mile trail starting at Church Row in Waimea and ending all the way at the end of DHHL land on the other side, meeting back up with Kauai High Road. And so that portion is around Lalamilo farm lots. Phase one, so the project had originally been one big project, but because there's independent utility in some of these phases, it got broken up, and AIS was already done, and a lot of environmental work had been done for phase one. So that's why we're able to pursue that now. Phase one starts at Ulu. What's the name of the park, Kamu? Ulula'au. Ulula'au, right behind, again, I'm so sorry, Carter Center, right?
Canada, France.
Canada, France, yeah. And it terminates at Kahawaii Street. That then goes back up to Lindsay Road, Kauai High Road. That's that portion that's already cleared and has like a wood chip path. So, that's all in use. So phase one is really, the construction for that is to create a AC path and make it a little bit more ADA accessible. Phase two then continues on from Kahawaii Street all the way to the transfer station. I think that's where the transfer station in Helco. And then, yeah, so that's a little bit of the background on that project.
awesome. At this time, if the action committee members have any questions, again, just raise your hand and I'll acknowledge you folks.
Question from Pete.
Go ahead, Pete.
Tasha, could you give us, if there is one, a current tentative composition of the trail itself? A few years ago, when we became aware of the federal requirements, we were afraid it was going to become H3. So I know there's an ADA requirement, which brings in a lot of concerns about improvements. Just off the top of your head, what's it look like right now for the trail itself?
So I think for the trail, there's still, the goal would be that it be a completely paved trail, so that bicyclists, pedestrians could use it a little bit more easier. I know for phase 2 and 3, the initial ask for easements were a lot more wider in hopes to have equestrian access, but that might not come to fruition. And we hiked phase 2 a couple weeks ago, and I think it's still able, that portion for phase 1 and phase 2, it's still a viable option to have it paved all the way and still meet ADA requirements. That's kind of also why it was concerning about the burial within our easement, because it was buried in a portion in which it would be easier for us to make the ADA grades. So that is still the goal. But I think part of what Waimea Trails and Greenways Committee has talked about is that they would rather have something sooner rather than later. And so they may take the approach again of how phase 1 has gone and where we secured the easements. And if we cannot secure the federal funds for paving, that they wish to go ahead and clear the trail and make it accessible for at least pedestrian use.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that you're trying to get things shovel ready to be used when the federal money drops at the end of the fiscal year. And I think they're still on an October to September fiscal year, right?
Yes.
Money would drop in September.
Yeah. So it's possible we can get federal funds at any time when they're open, and depending on how state wants to spend their money through the year. So if they're really looking to spend in the first quarter, second quarter, and there are no other projects ready, we can always be ready with that. So our target date is just contractually wise. I think the design contract is until December of this year. And so we'll have final design by then, and maybe have, I'm not quite sure, I'll have to talk to DPW about how do we retain the consultant on so that we can complete the design into and have a little bit of overlap into construction. But even that, because it's kind of a low risk project in terms of design, I don't think we really need that as much, but we just needed to be able to have all of our environmental ready, because that's always been the hard part about getting shovel projects ready, is that in order to access federal funds, we have to have the federal permitting and the NEPA process down. And sometimes when we have federal shovel-ready projects, we can get them to a 90% design, but without that component, that really then hampers or delays a project's ability to access the funds quickly. So we're trying to do a kind of a more proactive approach on this.
Do you have any kind of idea of what the federal money might be? How much?
I'm not quite sure, but you know, there's also other legislation going on trying to funnel more monies toward projects that really do more alternate transportation projects like this, more pedestrian and bicycle facilities. And it's not so much that there's more money, it's just maybe requiring the states or local agencies to have a bigger chunk dedicated to either like complete streets, alternative transportation. So in the recent ones I've seen is like 5%. And then couple that with policies that local, needing to have local and state policies that would require that so that they can access the funds. So, you know.
Thank you.
Bill had his hand up. Go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, I have several questions, but what I'm thinking for time is that I would ask the first question, and then maybe Pete and myself could meet to have a discussion about, you know, it's good to triangulate because there's a lot of involvement in here. I'm president of Waimea Preservation Association, and we had a connection in there. My understanding is that there is was a court case with a settlement that Parker Ranch was supposed to convey certain parcels and access, whether it's in lease or fee. Don't know the status of that. And then my question that I'm asking right now is the county taking the lead on this, or is the state taking the lead on it? And, you know, how is that working?
Yeah, so the county is taking the lead on it. Overall, for this first portion, I'm working in tandem with DPW. DPW will close out the design. So we have a contract right now for design that is all county money right now. But this project used to be on the state transportation improvement project. So they are aware of it, and we are in talks to make sure that it's still on the radar for also on the federal level, because we're trying to access federal funds for this. So we're doing the first phase. The mayor's office right now, Barrett Otani, is heavily engaged in the second phase. And I should also say that Parks and Rec has also come back on board because after construction, the trail and maintenance will turn over to Parks and Rec. And so Parks and Rec, for this first portion and the construction, they've kind of been a little bit hands-off since they've kind of been away from the table for a little bit, but now they're back. They've been heavily involved in phase 2.
Good. And then just a comment so we can carry on is we met with Director Moe and we alerted him. Some people may know this, may not know that from Church Row, the county does have a Jeep alignment that goes almost all the way to Mana Road, dangling road that's under county direction unless the state claims it. And there is a spur off of that particular Jeep road that goes into the forest reserve. So a longstanding issue on the green side of Waimea has always been, how do you get to the forest reserve? There's an opportunity with the state and the county to be able to make that alignment continue, not to complicate where you're at now, but to get it all the way to Mana Road, which gives the ability to go all the way around the mountain. So anyway, just wanted to put that out there so that you can get that on the radar somehow.
Oh, that's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great, terrific. If there's no other questions, we're gonna move.
Hello. I would just like to say one thing, only because it was communicated in the chat and just to get it into the official record. Julia did raise a point that is a recommendation for future speakers like this, if we can make a link to some background information to be available so that they may be better prepared to engage in the conversation. I just wanted to put that out there officially so we can get it into the record.
Great, duly noted. Thanks for the feedback, Julia. Okay, if no other questions, we're going to move to the next agenda item. Okay. Waikoloa Intersection and Second Access Road Investigatory Subcommittee Report. Planning staff will provide the Action Committee with a brief update on the subject intersection related to Department of Public Works contract list. After the update, the AC will take action relative to the investigatory subcommittee's final report consisting of communication 219, 10, and 14. For the record, communication number 4 was not part of the report on the date. And so we will have to make an amendment in the minutes for that. Action committee discussion may lead to subsequent actions or the close of the investigatory subcommittee. With that, let's begin with the brief update related to Department of Public Works. And for that, we're gonna turn back to Natasha Soriano.
Yeah, so just to clarify, so I'm the transportation planner at in the planning department, and I work alongside Keiko and Kamu. And part of my job is to kind of coordinate with DPW and other departments relating to transportation. So if that wasn't clear. So for Waikoloa intersection, I do not have any updates for a second access road, but in December, DPW awarded Belt Collins with a contract for the design of a roundabout at the intersection of Waikoloa and Paniolo Ave and Puamelia. So they're currently in the preliminary design phase. They have a surveyor out and they've started their section 106, again, historic preservation investigation. So I think there's preliminary archaeological work happening. That's pretty much the update that I got from DPW. I should note that, so if you have further questions, the engineer in charge is Robin Matsumoto, and I can drop her email in the chat as well. And other than that's pretty, again, that's pretty much the update that I was given. So Julia has a question.
I don't have a question. I have a comment. Mr. Gary Pinkston had told the county, Tim Richards specifically, that he was going to donate $100,000 towards the intersection because he had no onus on it. And what I'd like to see be done is that $100,000 be used towards a safety, some type of a safety report or, something, because I think that the county might be leaning one way instead of another way on what their design is going to be. And actually last week I filed a request to access a government record. So Natasha, I spoke with Ashley at the DPW to keep on top of this and see what was going on. So I'm just putting that in your ear. But and the other thing I wanted to bring up was with regards to the DKI extension, and now I'm just throwing this out there. I know it doesn't have to do with our DPW, it's a state project, but is there anything that the county is going to have to take into consideration with respect to the DKI being stalled because they don't have the funding ready right now because of the rental car money that they were anticipating using to fund the 20% that the feds are going to pay the 80% on? So are they going to consider that this is going to be a burden on Waikoloa Road until it comes through?
I don't know specifically. What I can say is there's still DPW and this project still needs to follow a 343 process. And I think they're still in talks of whether they'll pursue federal funding for the construction. Because if they do, a project like this would then warrant an EA. And I think in the EA, you'll have either some kind of traffic analysis, an alternative analysis. So it won't just be, you won't just see the roundabout. That's an avenue in which a decision point can be made of whether the intersection improvement would stay a roundabout. I think for now, it's just the nomenclature was the roundabout because it had been in some other reports or some other traffic impact statements from other developers around that was a suggestion. So again, I don't want you guys to like hold on. These are the intersection improvements that I think you guys are trying to see right now. It just, the name of it is a roundabout.
I'm sorry, I have a couple more questions. What kind of traffic impact the TIA are? How are you going to do one during a pandemic? And the other question I have is, in the interim with the Meridian project going through, I'd like to respectfully maybe request that the DPW install four-way stop signs at that intersection for safety purposes. I don't know, just a thought.
In terms of what data you can use, we don't have to necessarily look at 2020 data. I think there's still ways we can try to project, but in looking, you can also look back at other history and other TIA reports. I can't speak directly for DPW as to what process they'll take in order to do that. I will say probably for most of the state, a lot of our traffic has kind of bounced back to almost normal levels, with the exception of schools. So,
just for some background, Natasha has an engineering degree, and she, before coming to the county, she worked for the state Department of Transportation. So her engineering was specifically applied to roads. So we have a sound person to comment on these things. Any other questions for Natasha and what she reported?
This is Kevin. I do have I guess it's sort of a comment, I guess, or a question. Is there going to be a public review or public comment period on the design before it's finalized?
I believe there should be, as part of the 343 process, because it's still going to be an EA. So that would be one of the avenues. I'm trying to work with DPW to have a more robust public engagement for this project.
Okay, I guess the thing that's at the top of my mind is, I obviously, would accept some, traffic engineer analysis and recommendation for the type of improvement at the intersection. But we're also seeing a lot of housing development happening over at the Waikoloa Plaza. And there's already a fair amount of foot traffic across. So my main concern at this point is the
made to ensure safe crossing for pedestrians and including elderly or possibly disabled pedestrians.
Yeah, and that's a valid concern. I from an engineering standpoint, and this is in my personal opinion, I think roundabouts can still be quite safe for pedestrian use because it requires everybody to slow down a lot. And then that comes down to the actual design of how we enter and exit the roundabouts. So I think there's potential for it to still be a safe crossing for that. I do know there's concern because of the shopping opportunities on the Puamelia side and all that housing that's happening as well. Yes.
I like, am I being recognized? I'm glad you spoke up, Kevin, because particularly our reports were intentionally separated. There are parts that duplicate between them, but they were intentionally separated in case someone just had the issue of that. And the key things that jump out at me is that, and I'm trying to flip and find the exact page, but one thing is that the only general plan we have right now in 2005 recommended that a stoplight be put in at Waikoloa intersection. And that was 16 years ago. The second thing was, and we were very careful because we didn't feel we are the experts or qualified to make this decision, engineering decision and planning decision. But we did come across, and Kevin, maybe you can, I'm trying to find a specific page, but I know we found that there's I think it was the ADA, the association representing ADA, that had specifically opposed roundabouts because of their danger for people with limited sight. So I just want you to factor that in. It is in these reports. I just don't know if I can find it right this second. So if you reference back to that report, it's there.
Bill. You just got to unmute, Bill. Nope. Sorry, you're still on mute. You can keep working on that. I'm just gonna ask if anybody else has questions. Well, Bill, okay, Bill, you're on.
Okay, you brought up the topic about pedestrians in a roundabout. I'm all for roundabouts, but when you try to do something like they're trying to do in Lindsay Road and Kauai High, in a compact area over there, where you put the pedestrian crossings is going to be very important. And in that, if you look at that as a study, the engineers didn't consider the fact that if you're trying to get the traffic to flow and you have 2 churches, 2 schools, a playground, and a big intersection over there, and you put those crosswalks right at the edge of the roundabout, you're going to have more of a traffic jam halfway through the roundabout waiting for 3 other places to be able to cross when you have that kind of situation. And that's a microcosm of what's going to happen down in Waikoloa Road if it isn't done correctly. So just be aware of that. That's the only thing that really bothers me about the engineering up here in Waimea, but also it could apply for down there like Kevin was talking about. So on the radar, that's all.
Well, Also, just to add in that when Tim Richards got CIP funding in to do a study there, and when we saw that it was specifically about a roundabout, I talked with him and he said, no, that's just the terminology. It's whatever is best for the intersection. So I don't know if that's still where we are. I hope so.
Well, again, like I said, the project will still need to have an EA, whether it be for 343 or for NEPA. And in the EA, you need to have alternative analysis. So it will discuss a no build action, a roundabout action, and probably some other intersection treatment, such as the light. So there'll be analysis so that's something you guys can look forward to.
Okay, great. Yeah, so I think the main thing I want to reiterate for all these questions and what Natasha is saying is that, and we can help notify when the public comment period is open. Natasha, is that right? Will you be able to let us know so we can communicate that back out to our ACs? And so it would be good to start thinking about comments, these comments that you guys have, and just prepare them so that when that moment comes, you're not rushing. Okay. You know, I'm going to move on this same agenda to the business part of it. And thank you, Natasha, for the update and for fielding the questions. I just want to thank everybody involved in the AC, and especially those that worked in the subcommittee to produce the reports that we're hopefully going to accept today. As you guys know, you form a subcommittee, you scope out what the subcommittee is going to do. This subcommittee said they're going to produce a report, and they did, and they presented it in 2019. And now the last process is to discuss and vote on accepting the report as is. It doesn't mean that, although I do recommend to the AC, given that the work has been done, the work is good, I would suggest that the subcommittee close. But when I say that, just know that it doesn't mean that the work ends. The action committee can reform another subcommittee. And the reason why I think that's important is because I think even with all the good work, it's a good place to start afresh and to rescope, especially with the new knowledge of where the intersection project is at this point in time. So with that being said, I'm just going to open the floor for the discussion portion. If anybody has comments about the two reports.
Hey, Kamal, this is Kevin. As far as the sort of, say, mechanics of the action committee and creating a subcommittee and then closing a subcommittee when the subcommittee has completed its task, I completely agree. And I think the subcommittee completed its task, and I believe we should close it. And in my opinion, I'd suggest, if we can, any follow-up items such as, Julia mentioned in chat about, potentially needing additional communication regarding, because there are plans to build additional housing over at the plaza that we didn't know about when we made the report. I think if those are bite-sized tasks, they could be handled directly in the action committee meetings without a subcommittee being needed, I think. So anyway, that's my thought on wrapping up the subcommittee. We completed our task, I think, and then how we might handle any specific remaining items that come up as we go forward.
Yeah, thank you for that input, Kevin.
So Kohala, do we need a motion to accept the report and close out the subcommittee?
Correct. But this is just the discussion portion.
Well, but usually you move them
Yeah,
and then you second it and then you discuss.
right.
Well,
You're right
I'm
about that.
thinking that
So,
we accept it and close it out. And if there's a second, then we can discuss it.
correct. So if you want to make a motion to accept the two reports and somebody can second, and then we can begin the discussion.
I'll make a second.
Thank you.
Okay, great. All in favor?
Well,
I, Pete,
To accept the reports, and then we're going to move into discussion.
Aye.
Aye.
wait, hold on. Usually you make the motion, it gets seconded, we discuss, and then we don't vote on it until we've had the discussion. So Pete had something he wanted to say, I think.
Okay.
Oh. Pete?
Floor is open for discussion.
So why would we want to move to close the investigation when there's such varying degrees of differences, and we could attach it as an update to see just how much the project has changed? Just that question I have.
Hey, Julie, this is Kevin again. I don't know, just my opinion. I know that when we create a subcommittee, I remember when we talked about that way back when, you know, the task was very specific, and so if we completed our task, then I think that, you know, we from an operational standpoint, we should confirm that subcommittee did its task, but then we should follow on with what you're asking about, which I think is important, which is the action committee could ask that the report be updated, or we could, I don't know, there's some, maybe somebody with some more familiarity with it could explain or give a recommendation. But I think we could, you know, if the update is quite straightforward, you know, an individual could do the update rather than having a subcommittee have to be formed and proceed to do the thing, which might be faster, I guess.
Okay, I understand. Is there some way that the planning department can give us an update on what's all the housing that's on that Puumalia side of the southeast quadrant of Waikoloa? So we can use it for the action committee's purposes of moving forward with the intersection?
So, Julia, again, I think that's why it's important to begin a new scope. Yeah. So, you know, we're working with you in your one-on-one inquiries about getting files for you to research, right? I believe that's a different part of, it's not, even though it's related, the current reports are at a good place to close. And like I was saying, something can start up after it. You can continue to pursue your inquiries the way you are now. And another subcommittee can form around it. But for now, it's about where are we gonna land with this subcommittee. So yes, we will continue to work with you. I think that is a broader related, but do you want this subcommittee to continue, meaning you, Kevin, and Ruth, to work on the things that you're asking, whereas we can close and start anew?
Thank you.
Go ahead, Bill.
Kevin, you related something to the fact you guys wrote a report. So in closing this out, is there another report or a closeout report that would go on if we vote for closing it out?
I believe if we confirm that the subcommittee, if the full committee accepts the subcommittee's report, then the subcommittee has completed its task, then there would not be a new or additional report unless, the action committee, the full committee, for an individual or a group of people to do it, or to even create a subcommittee to do it. So yeah, there would be like the report that was submitted would not be updated, I guess, is the answer to your question.
Okay, I'll pass it back to Kamu because we're sitting here with a vote as to whether to close it or not close it. We don't want it buried after we close it. We want to make sure that it's sitting there for any
Continue.
for future use.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, may I weigh in here? So, Bill, I assure you that this isn't going to get dusty because it just it continues to be a more pressing issue every day that Meridian Pacific moves closer to, actually bringing in people to the village. So, I think one of the challenges we had on the subcommittee, was just there was always something new coming up. The thing that the person that we thought was going to be doing this, well, now they don't even own the land anymore. They sold out to some shell company that actually they're still involved. Anyway, we finally got to a point that we said we need to write a report, and really understand that the dynamics of planning and actually moving towards completion of infrastructure things is pretty much an ongoing thing. And once and when we get some solution at that intersection, there will still be questions going on after that. I don't think there's nothing static about this process. So I don't want, by moving the motion, I'm not in any way saying, shelve this or we're done. I think, as Kevin has articulated very well, the task that the subcommittee was asked to do is completed. And, we had a lot of depth of research in this, and that will still keep going on, just like what you were talking about when you were talking about the trails and information that you have. So, but you don't have a subcommittee formed on that, I don't think, do you?
Just a community group. It's just Pete
Right.
and myself.
So what I'm saying is that having it at the formal level of a subcommittee that's not a prerequisite to continuing to work on it, which we will. Hopefully all of us.
Ruth, my only concern right here is I will still sustain my second to close it out. But what I want to do is give my aloha to all the three of you guys for the extensive work that you did. And I just would want to make sure that when the Complete Action Committee closes it out, it isn't just going to get buried somewhere, that's all. So it's up to you guys.
Okay.
So can I interject a little bit? I think there's still an opportunity to have, when closing out this report and accepting it, that we can still, the planners, we can still forward the committee report to DPW for consideration. And as I've said, I've been talking to the engineer and they're aware of it. They're like, we haven't received anything. So this is also another form of public input and public outreach. So it's just a feather in their caps for them to have it, at least in the project files, or to forward it to their consultant for consideration in design. And then secondly, the work and advocacy that you guys are demonstrating doesn't necessarily have to be beholden to just this committee, right? So as I'm hearing, you know, Pete and Bill have work on the side. I do realize the constraint of then if you guys still all want to work together, then it has to be formalized. But then there's still work within your respective groups that you guys all represent, that can still give voice and still be connected to the project. And maybe I get it, the concern. But again, I'm here too. I'm also a resource. So please let me know how I can help in any way.
You know, that was, if this is Kevin again, that was a really good point that I hadn't mentioned, but you reminded me, thank you, which is the procedure, I think, is that when the full committee accepts the report, then the full committee can take an action to send the report to somebody or request that it be published or anything like that. But until the full committee has accepted the report, it's effectively still a draft prepared by the subcommittee. So I think that's sort of a necessary formality, if you will, to making the report go from the action committee out to other groups within the county.
Correct. We need, this is a 2-for-1, but just to let you guys know, the first part of the 2-for-1 is that you folks accept the report. As is. So if you guys were to vote to accept the report, then we can start talking about what Natasha just mentioned, right? And the second question after if you guys choose to accept the report is, do you also want to close the subcommittee? It's not written in here, but it's with the understanding, if you guys want to continue to champion it, it's up to you folks how you guys want to champion it. Either as a whole action committee or as another subcommittee. But the first step is to have everybody accept the report.
I call for accepting the report.
Okay, Bill, just so we're in the discussion portion, and if nobody else has any more discussion items, we have a motion to accept the report as is.
Okay, he's calling for the question. He wants us to
Yeah.
vote on the motion that's been made and seconded.
Yeah. So Ruth, you're saying that it's already seconded.
Yeah, I made the motion. Bill seconded. We've had this discussion, and now Bill is saying, it seems like we've had a lot of discussion, and he's calling for the question.
Call for the vote.
Call for the vote. Okay. Okay. Calling for the vote. I'm gonna go down the line here. And so it's yay or nay. Julia?
Maybe I'm missing something, but I have difficulty closing something from 2019 without putting a final, just a touch on it, like that we can officially close it once we make comments on it, because the thing is changed so much. That's where I just have, maybe my mind's not wrapped around. Are we going to send it? And then Natasha said she's going to send it off to DPW. Well, it's not a full picture anymore. Lots has changed. That's my only problem with it.
So I'm hearing no from Julia. Ruth?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Tristy?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
Pete?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Okay, with that, we have 6 votes to accept the report as is and 1 nay. The The yes has it. So congratulations for the report being complete. And here's the second part. I'm gonna ask, so the proposal I'm putting on the floor is to close the subcommittee. So does somebody want to make a motion and second that?
I so move.
Okay, we have a first,
Second,
Trustee second. Does anybody, the floor is open for discussion on the closing of the subcommittee.
You know, I think Julia's got a point here that there's probably some additional notes that need to be done that could be a supplement to the original report. And it's up to the three people that were in the committee to decide whether that's going to be a better vehicle for getting the information updated or having to start over again. So I just put that out there to Julia to figure out whether there's something there that should keep it open for, you know, until the next meeting or whatever.
Okay,
This is Kevin again. I agree, Bill. So I think my suggestion is that we perhaps ask one or two action committee members to prepare an addendum or an update directly to the committee, to the full committee, rather than doing it through a subcommittee. I feel like that will be more efficient.
thank you, Kevin. Anybody else? Okay, let me check the chat. Anything in the chat, Kiko?
Just Julia agreeing that she would be happy to submit that.
Okay. So if there's no more discussion, just to be clear, right? There's a concern about adding something supplemental. What Kevin is saying is that the action committee can still work on that even if the subcommittee closes. Is there any more discussion before we call for the vote?
no,
Okay, I'm gonna call for the vote to close the Waikoloa Intersection and Second Access Road Investigatory Subcommittee. Starting with Julia.
I'm not going to vote.
Okay. Ruth,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes,
Tristy,
yes,
Karen,
Yes.
Pete,
Yes,
Kevin.
Yes.
The yes has it. Did everybody vote? Okay, sorry, 6-1. The yes has it. So the subcommittee is closed, and I just want to reaffirm, it doesn't mean that the work is done. We can definitely put this on the next as a agenda item and for the next meeting. And again, there's ways for two or less, less than two of you to come and talk to us if you want to set up a meeting. Which I think is important, because I feel part of in making ourselves operate more efficiently, I really want to focus on helping subcommittees scope out their projects way before we actually call for it in the meeting. That's one thing I suggest that we focus on in 2021 and going forward. And that scoping subcommittees in the moment of an agenda item, I found that along the way, the scope tends to shift. So the more work we can do in putting together a more comprehensive scope prior to having it called out in the meeting, I really want to do that work before we get to the next meeting. Okay.
Hey, Kamala, this is Kevin. Can I ask one question?
Yes.
Does the action committee need to formally request for Julia, in this case, to provide an update? Or can Julia just go ahead and do that and you just put it on the agenda and we just discuss it whenever that's ready?
Yeah, again, I think what's going to be key is to try and give us a heads up of what that report is going to be, and we can be sure to make an agenda item for it. Yeah, so just stay in communication, Julia and whoever is working on that supplemental report, but just know that now whatever is presented before the AC, it's up to the AC to accept it as a whole, and the discussion as a whole. It's no longer a subcommittee until you guys decide to reform one. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So we are at 2 minutes to 5:30. We have one more business item. Keiko, what is your advice? I assume that this Kumu thing could take at least another half an hour.
May I ask a question, Kamala, in terms about the extent of feedback you got?
Rob?
Yeah, I would say that we received input from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 members at the moment. So 6 out of 8, given that we have 1 vacant seat.
No, we just have, Mark is absent. Not vacant, is it?
Yes, we have a vacant seat on the committee.
Okay.
So is the action committee okay with going on for at least another half hour?
This is Kevin. I have 2 children running around the house. I'm going to have to go on time.
Okay.
Bill's gonna have to go on time too. We have a Waimea Community Association meeting with the mayor that we need to attend.
Okay.
And I'll have to leave at 1:45, so I only have a short time left as well. I'm sorry.
Okay, so action item, business item number 4 does not necessarily have to end in a vote. It doesn't require a quorum. However, it is basically just sharing the results of connections between you folks and the things you are involved in. So I'm gonna pose this before we get into this item. We can just proceed, and when people have to leave, they can leave. it's the presentation will be on YouTube. Is that right, Rob?
Yes, it'll be visible as part of the YouTube recording.
Yeah, so so this is not necessarily a vote, but I just want to get it. Go ahead, Keiko.
Sorry, I was just going to suggest, since some people need to step out, it would be good if we could close out the draft minutes.
Yeah,
And so if we could vote on those very quickly, and then we can move into the Kumu, and whomever is able to stay can stay, as you said, and then we'll be sending out links and additional information for those of you who have a hard stop.
Okay.
That's what I was gonna suggest.
Okay, great. So if there's no objections to that, we're just going to move into that. So approval of the minutes. The action committee will consider the draft minutes for June 18th, 2019 and December 16th, 2020 action committee meetings. Upon your review, is there any discussion needed?
Motion to accept.
We have a motion to accept the minutes as is.
I'll second the motion. This is Kevin.
And
Well,
enough for discussion. Rob, I just want to clarify, I heard back from you that I found different things. Well, actually, I found two different copies, but it looks like you corrected it that the proposal to accept the minutes from May 25th, that I moved it and it was seconded by Julia, not whoever Mr. Kimura is.
Correct. Yeah, I don't.
So
Yes, that is correct.
but it's, I found it, and then when I went and looked in another place, Kimura was still in there, so just.
No, yeah,
just
that was the
double-
older
double-
version.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, all right.
okay. Any other discussions about the minutes? Okay, having that there's a second to approve the minutes, I'm going to call for the vote, beginning with Julia.
I move to approve or second, whatever.
Okay, Ruth,
Yes,
Bill,
Yes.
Christie,
Yes.
Karen,
Yes.
Pete,
Yes,
Kevin.
Yes.
Yes. All choose to accept the minutes as is. Thank you very much. And then, so with the understanding that if people have to leave, they can leave, we're going to enter into business item number 4.
but we
Action
still have
committee.
one other set of minutes to approve.
We approved them both at the same time.
We approved December at the same time?
As it reads, minutes for the June 18th, 2019 and December 16th, 2020
Oh,
meetings.
I missed that, fine, thank you.
I'm going to sign off. Thank you guys for having me.
Thanks, Natasha.
Hey, Natasha.
Aloha, everybody. Great to see everyone.
Thanks,
Thank
Kevin.
you. Aloha.
Thanks, Christie. Okay, here we go. Action committee member initiatives and network maps. Long range planner Kohala Plunkett to present results of the network mapping exercise based on community connections of individual action committee members. This network mapping exercise aims to visualize the potential for community action based on the community connectivity represented by the collective South Kohala Community Development Plan Action Committee. The Action Committee will discuss and provide feedback on the information presented. Based on the collective areas of interest and correlation with the South Kohala Community Development Plan, The action committee may consider establishing investigatory committees relative to specific initiatives and advances that advance the CDP implementation. With that, I am gonna let Rob actually present the results of the network mapping.
Okay, does everybody see my screen? You should be seeing a very colorful network of information. So what this is, if you remember back in the December meeting, one of the topics going forward is about finding ways to discuss about the community networks that all the different ACs have as a group, and then finding ways of connecting that to the community actions that could be done to forward the implementation of the CDP. So to prepare ourselves for this, we asked you for certain input to put into the software that's called Kumu. Just briefly on Kumu, it was created by two brothers on Oahu who were involved with a lot of community activities and thought it was a nice way to try to visualize, describe, and make sense of complicated relationships that they were dealing with within their community activities. So what we've done then was that we put out the query to you to help provide to us what kind of community organizations are you involved with, what are perhaps their missions, as well as projects that are specifically attached to them or that you may be involved with as well. And so what we did is we basically pumped this all into the system and try to present it in a way that brings out and highlights one particular aspect. Now, what you can see first here is radiating out from the center, which is the action committee. We have all of the members, and we've gotten pretty good response so far, and we'll continue to grow this as we get the input from remaining members. Mm-hmm. But the idea here is then that you can see visually the names of the community associations that people are involved with, how varied they may be, and how many people may be involved with. You see a very interesting picture growing here. Now, we took it upon ourselves to try to create some kind of coloring or categorization, something that is just a start for this presentation and will, of course, be modified with inputs from yourselves, as we want to do this island-wide. We want to create a standard for the way to doing this so that everything can be shareable and easily recognized as we move across from AC to AC. It all is very consistent. But what we found, at least in this example, that we have communities, associations that are involved with a lot of different points of view. Some are in arts and recreation, some are business focused, some very specific to fire management and whatnot. You can kind of see the types of organizations, and then by the colors around the chart, you'll see the concentration amongst the different types. And what's interesting is that what was highlighted by the community members, or excuse me, the action committee members, were more than just community action or community groups. There's also some interesting things going on with Julia for something called Next Door, where she's trying to use a social platform for broadcasting activities that are going on in the community, including AC activity. So this kind of allows you to give a visual to it, and it also allows you to kind of focus on individuals. So I just pick one here. You can kind of blow it up and see what is happening there, which is a nice tool as this gets more complicated with information, as well as when we blow it up island-wide, you'll start to see details, and you can focus and hone in where you would like to. What this particular view is stopping at are just the organizations that have been identified, but if you can pull up another view with the different projects, you can see again then that the picture expands where certain members have tagged projects that are ongoing. Now, I think the opportunity here and why it's being presented with this level of detail is for the discussion point that is noted on the agenda to think about what kind of community-based actions are you working on today? How do they connect across these organizations? How might you see connections between the different action committee members who may be working on very similar or tangentially related activities, as well as then extending that kind of thinking island-wide, sort of the whole context that was described in the all-island AC meeting back in December. So given the time that I know Karen needs to get out, I'm going to keep this discussion to this presentation to this, and then bring it back to Kamu so you can go forward with the conversation around this.
So thanks, Rob, for that presentation and for putting this together. Again, with all the information each individual AC member gave us, he inputted it, and we get this. However, just to let you know, this is not the only way to represent this information. And we're still trying to understand all the different features that present the connectivity in different ways. So just to let you know, we're still learning how the different functions of the tool should best be presented, but we wanted to show you something that we're working on. And again, we're still learning it. But it does put a visual representation of things that everybody's involved in collectively. With that, I don't want to expound much more. I think we can work on better defining the categories we have in the legend. That's a discussion we're having in-house. But like the agenda item says, if folks can give us feedback now, you guys can discuss it now, or give us feedback in comments now, but you can also feel free to email us. Before I open it up for discussion, I believe we're going to send you guys a visual representation, either through a link. You won't be able to change the information, but you'll be able to view it and zoom in. And then we're also going to give you a list of some actions that we extrapolated out of your CDP, and so that you can look at those things together. And we're not asking that you come up with a plan right now, but we are saying that you can look at those things relative to one another, and feel free to discuss with us in the interim before the next meeting to give us your thoughts. With that being said, we still have Karen, Ruth, and Pete on the meeting, so the floor is open.
I just, Pete, correct me if I'm wrong, but as I see Bill, I didn't have a chance to respond, but all those things that you have under Waimea Preservation Association and all the little spiders that come off of that, Bill's involved in all that stuff too, right?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. So I think if you share this with Bill, he'll be able to, it'll be easier for him to just do his input, you know. And the only thing that I know of on Mark that he consistently is involved is the Hawaii wildfire. And I don't know, can you take it back down to where it's not big? Can I do that? No, I can't do that. Yeah, anyway, it's a good start. And just one other thing I want to clarify, my understanding is that we're holding off seeking people to fill that vacancy for a reason?
Yes, for now, the discussion is between our new management and the mayor's office, and I'm not exactly sure what the it's about ensuring what course of direction they want to go before they start filling seats. And it's not necessarily like there's a different direction, as much as it's a new administration along with new management wanting to assess the situation. So that's how best it was explained to me, and that's the best I can confer to you folks, why the seats are not being actively filled right now. but I think they're gonna come to a decision point soon.
Okay. So thank you guys for pulling that together. Do we want to make a motion to adjourn, or do we want to talk about the agenda for next meeting or even the possible dates for the next meeting? Or do we just want to adjourn?
Okay, cool. You got thoughts?
I was just gonna say, I don't think we can make a motion to adjourn since we don't have quorum anymore. And so we can just go ahead and adjourn. I think if you folks have suggestions for your next agenda, you could throw those out and we can share that back with the rest of the group. And as always, we'll check in as we're coming up to the next meeting to see if folks have additional thoughts or activities that have happened in between.
Pete here, just a suggestion. Could we ask Kamu or Rob to go out with a reminder for agenda items way before the next meeting? Just so us old folks will remember.
That's a great idea.
Noted. It'll be there. Yep.
Thank you.
And then just do we have any idea of, are we looking to having another meeting? I think the next meeting that we're talking about is one of those joint meetings, not one of just for South Kohala. Am I correct on that?
We'll have one more South Kohala meeting before the bigger meeting is pulled together, before the County Community Learning Series is pulled together.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here. We've got lots to pull together ourselves. Kohala.
Okay. So that will probably be in a couple months. In May sometime.
I don't think we have confirmation yet on a date. It will be during the second quarter,
Okay.
which we're entering soon. And so, yeah, we'll try to get that out to you folks as soon as we get confirmation.
Right.
On that date.
Okay, thank you. Well, so I don't know. I'm gonna say, have a lovely evening.
Excuse me, Kamu and Rob, I've tried everything to get on camera, and the only thing different I saw today when I signed in was Zoom said launch meeting, and I usually get a join meeting, and maybe that was it.
I don't think so. I mean, that might just be a terminology question. Yeah, there's something very strange because I know you have been able to participate before.
Yeah.
With your picture. So, yeah, I think we'd have to look at your PC.
I'll work on it. Yeah.
You might have to come in, Pete, but we're not. Well, Rob is a little bit of a technology guy.
Well, Pete, what I can offer, when you're ready to test it, please just drop me a mail and we can set up a impromptu meeting and we can test it together.
Thank you. Yeah. Sorry to add an additional non sequitur, but I thought I'd ask you guys before.
Sure, no worries.
Yeah.
And thanks very much for a good meeting, and aloha to all, and have a good evening.
Nice
Okay.
to see you. Aloha.
Thanks, Ruth, and thanks,
Great,
Pete.
thank you.
Mahalo.
Mahalo.